The U.S. government has spent over 10 years searching for a man officially listed as missing and wanted in a sealed federal case. But every morning, that same man clocks into a warehouse in Ohio, works 6 hours, and goes home. No fake name. No disguise. No record mistake. How can someone be hunted by the system and still be living inside it? What if the man sitting quietly beside you on the subway? What if the guy who clocks in every morning, works a clean 6-hour shift, smiles at his supervisor, and drives home to a silent apartment, is officially one of the most wanted missing persons in the United States? Before you continue, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this story isn't about a criminal on the run. It's about a ghost who never stopped going to work. For more than 10 years, the U.S. government has searched for one man, flagged in federal databases, listed in sealed briefings, and quietly circulated among law enforcement agencies across multiple states. They say he vanished without a trace. But every weekday morning, he swipes a badge. Every weekday afternoon, exactly 6 hours later, he leaves. No disguises. No fake name on the schedule. No hidden basement. Just a normal job, a predictable routine, and a life so painfully ordinary that no one ever questioned it. Until a single data conflict, buried inside a government system, triggered a chain of discoveries no one was prepared for. Stay with me to the end, because this case will force you to ask one terrifying question. How can someone be missing and still be living in plain sight? On a cold Monday morning in Columbus, Ohio, a man named Evan Calder arrived at work at exactly 8:02 a.m. He always did. Evan worked as a maintenance technician for a private logistics warehouse just outside the city. His job was simple: equipment checks, storage inspections, safety reports. Nothing sensitive. Nothing glamorous. He worked exactly 6 hours each day, never staying late, never requesting overtime. To his co-workers, Evan was quiet, polite, and painfully forgettable. What none of them knew was that, according to a sealed federal entry created more than a decade earlier, Evan Calder was not supposed to exist. In 2014, the U.S. Department of Justice quietly classified a missing person case connected to a national security investigation. The subject was listed as presumed unreachable. The internal language meant something far worse than missing. It meant lost. The man they were searching for was named Marcus Hale. Marcus Hale vanished in Virginia in 2013, shortly after federal investigators requested an emergency interview with him. His vehicle was found abandoned near Shenandoah National Park. No body. No witnesses. No confirmed sightings. For 10 years, the case stayed cold. And yet, every weekday in Ohio, Evan Calder kept showing up to work. In September 2013, Marcus Hale was not running. He was a mid-level data compliance contractor working with a private analytics firm in Arlington, Virginia, a company that quietly handled data verification for federal agencies. His job was boring by design, validating identity records, cross-checking government databases, and flagging irregularities. But 3 weeks before he disappeared, Marcus submitted a routine internal ticket. The issue looked harmless. 2 different citizens, same social security number, different names, different birthplaces, both active. One profile was old, inactive, and buried inside a legacy federal system. The other was new and clean. When Marcus escalated the conflict, he was told it would be handled internally. 2 days later, he received a call from a restricted federal office requesting an urgent in-person interview. Marcus never made it. His car was discovered off Skyline Drive, parked crookedly near a trail entrance inside Shenandoah National Park. His phone was still inside. His wallet was gone. His laptop, issued by his employer, had been wiped remotely less than 40 minutes after his last known signal. There was no sign of a struggle. No footage. No financial activity afterward. And within 72 hours, Marcus Hale officially became a federally flagged missing person. A case quietly marked, "Do not publicize." When Evan Calder was hired in Ohio in 2019, his background check came back flawless. No arrests. No aliases. No prior addresses that raised concern. A clean Social Security trace stretching back almost 15 years. Too clean. Human Resources never questioned it. Most employers never do. The automated screening service simply stamped him as verified, eligible, and low risk. What no one noticed was that Evan's digital identity didn't behave like a normal adult record. There were no childhood school files. No college enrollment. No first job history. No credit activity before his mid-20s. His life simply began. In 2008. For investigators who specialize in synthetic identities, that pattern is usually a red flag. But Evan's record didn't look synthetic. It was internally consistent. Every government database agreed with every other one. Except one. Deep inside an archived Federal Identity Index, maintained separately from civilian employment systems, an unresolved conflict still existed. 2 men. 1 number. 1 name that had been buried. And 1 name that was now clocking in every morning. The contradiction stayed hidden for years because the missing person system that still listed Marcus Hale never spoke directly to the Civilian Employment Verification Network. 2 federal worlds. 2 realities. And 1 man quietly living in the gap between them. In March 2024, a junior data integrity analyst named Lena Whitmore was assigned a routine cleanup task at a federal contractor facility in Maryland. Her job was simple. Merge outdated identity conflicts from a retired verification system into a newer national reconciliation platform. Most conflicts were boring. Typographical errors. Duplicate birth dates. Misspelled surnames. Then she opened 1 record. Same Social Security number. 2 active citizens. 2 different names. 1 profile was marked missing, federally restricted. The other was marked employment verified, active wage reporting. That should not happen. The missing profile belonged to Marcus Hale. The active profile belonged to Evan Calder. Lena assumed it was an old glitch. But when she traced the employment feed, she saw real payroll activity coming in every 2 weeks from an Ohio logistics company. Someone was paying a man who officially should not exist. Lena followed protocol and submitted a discrepancy alert. Less than an hour later, her ticket was reassigned. Not closed. Reassigned. The new owner was a redacted office code she had never seen before. And buried in the automated response was a single line that made her stomach drop. Do not contact the subject. Monitoring status only. For the first time since Marcus Hale vanished, a government system had quietly confirmed something impossible. He hadn't disappeared. He had continued living. From the outside, Evan Calder's life in Columbus was small and carefully shaped. He rented the same 1-bedroom apartment for 5 years. He paid cash for a used sedan. He avoided subscriptions, credit cards, and long-term contracts. His phone plan was prepaid and renewed in person every month. But what drew attention once federal monitoring quietly began was not what Evan did. It was what he never did. He never traveled out of state. He never visited airports. He never used ride-sharing apps. He never posted online. He never registered for streaming services, delivery apps, or loyalty programs. And most strangely of all, in 5 years of employment records, Evan Calder never took a single day off. Not sick leave. Not vacation. Not personal time. Every weekday, 6 hours exactly. Badge in, badge out. When analysts reconstructed his daily movements using traffic cameras and public transportation feeds, his routine formed a perfect loop. Apartment. Warehouse. Grocery store. Home. No detours. No unexplained stops. It was the kind of life designed to leave almost no digital footprint. Yet behind that controlled routine, a deeper review of archived federal logs revealed something far more disturbing. Before 2013, there was no trace of Evan Calder anywhere. Before 2013, there was only one man attached to that identity number: Marcus Hale. The problem for federal investigators was not proving that Evan Calder and Marcus Hale were connected. It was proving how. When analysts finally received limited authorization to access sealed legacy records tied to Marcus's disappearance, they discovered a forgotten internal report, one that had never been formally closed. The file was labeled Internal Identity Integrity Breach, 2013. It wasn't classified. It was suppressed. According to the report, Marcus Hale had not merely discovered a duplicate identity. He had traced a fault inside a government-contracted identity reconciliation system, one capable of rewriting the primary owner of a Social Security number without triggering civilian fraud alerts. In other words, the system did not create fake people. It reassigned real ones. The report detailed a brief internal test conducted by a defense subcontractor in early 2013. The objective was to evaluate whether compromised identities could be quietly migrated to new records in order to protect sensitive personnel during classified operations. But the test environment had not stayed isolated. A live identity had been altered. Marcus found it. The report ended with one unresolved note. Subject may have initiated unauthorized recovery procedures prior to interview request. To the investigators reading it in 2024, the implication was chilling. Marcus Hale may not have been erased. He may have overwritten himself. On the morning Marcus Hale disappeared, he had already packed for the federal interview. Surveillance footage from his apartment building in Arlington showed him leaving with a slim backpack and a hard-shell document case. He locked his door. He did not look rushed. He did not look afraid. Phone metadata later revealed that Marcus had placed a single encrypted call at 7:18 a.m. The recipient number belonged to a private cybersecurity consultant in Alexandria named Daniel Rourke. For years, that call meant nothing. Until federal analysts, now tracking Evan Calder, cross-checked archived contact networks connected to the suppressed breach report. Daniel Rourke's name appeared twice. Not as a suspect, as an emergency contractor. When investigators finally located Rourke in 2024, he was reluctant to speak. But under limited immunity, he confirmed something no one had formally documented. Marcus had contacted him days before the interview. Marcus believed his own identity had already been altered. He had noticed credential delays, mismatched access permissions, and failed authentication attempts inside government systems that had always worked before. He was convinced someone, or something, had reassigned his core identity credentials to a new record. Marcus told Rourke one final sentence during that call. "If I lose the interview, I lose my name." He never made it to the interview. But someone else kept his number. By late April 2024, federal monitoring of Evan Calder had escalated from passive data review to real-world observation. A small interagency team was assigned to watch him. Not to arrest him. To confirm him. On a Thursday afternoon, 2 unmarked vehicles waited outside the Ohio warehouse. At exactly 2:03 p.m., Evan exited through the employee side door, backpack slung over one shoulder, same pace, same posture, same blank expression he wore every day. One agent quietly spoke into his radio. "Subject is moving." They followed him for 3 miles. Traffic. Stoplights. A routine grocery stop. Nothing unusual. But when Evan reached his apartment complex and disappeared into the stairwell, the lead analyst monitoring live data noticed something that had never appeared before. A legacy credential request. A silent authentication ping hit a restricted federal system, using Marcus Hale's original credential chain. It came from the same cellular network sector Evan's phone was connected to. For the first time in over a decade, Marcus Hale's digital identity had attempted to access a government system. Not Evan Calder's. Marcus's. The team froze. Because the man they were watching had just gone home. But the system that only Marcus Hale could access had suddenly recognized him as alive. The authentication alert triggered an immediate internal dispute. Half the monitoring team believed the signal was delayed system noise, a ghost request finally surfacing after years of dormant infrastructure. The other half knew better. The credential chain that activated belonged exclusively to Marcus Hale. It was not mirrored. It was not cloned. It was never issued twice. And yet, it had just been used. Within minutes, a request was sent to initiate a controlled contact operation on Evan Calder. The response came back in under 90 seconds. Request denied. No explanation. No escalation path. Only a narrow operational directive. Subject remains non-interference priority. The phrase stunned the team. Non-interference was not used for suspects. It was used for protected outcomes. Still watching from two parked vehicles across the street, agents observed Evan's apartment lights turn on. The curtains moved. A silhouette crossed the living room. Inside federal headquarters, analysts traced the credential ping deeper and uncovered a short command session. It wasn't data theft. It wasn't surveillance access. It was a self-verification sequence, an identity integrity check. A digital mirror. Someone inside that apartment had just tested whether Marcus Hale still existed inside the system. And the system had answered. Yes. At 9:47 p.m. that night, the final signal arrived. Not from Evan Calder's phone. From a dormant secure endpoint once registered to Marcus Hale. The message was not encrypted. It was not hidden. It was simply unexpected. A short identity closure request entered the same federal reconciliation system Marcus had once exposed. The request contained no personal data. Only a single confirmation instruction. Lock original identity. Preserve secondary record. To the analysts watching in silence, the meaning was devastatingly clear. Marcus Hale was not trying to reclaim his life. He was protecting the one that replaced it. For the first time, the suppressed breach report finally made sense. Marcus had discovered how identity ownership could be migrated. But instead of undoing the damage, he had completed it. Deliberately. Sometime before his interview in 2013, Marcus had learned something that made survival incompatible with staying Marcus Hale. So he created Evan Calder. A smaller life. A quieter footprint. A life that would never trigger attention again. No ambition. No travel. No noise. Just 6 hours of work and a controlled routine that kept him invisible. Shortly after the closure request executed, the monitoring authority on Evan Calder was revoked. The federal case for Marcus Hale was officially sealed. And the man who went to work the next morning was still missing. If this story unsettled you, it should. Because this case was never about a fugitive hiding from the government. It was about a man who learned that, inside modern systems, your name can be more dangerous than your face. Marcus Hale didn't vanish into the wilderness. He vanished into infrastructure. He didn't outrun the United States government. He redesigned how the government recognized him. And the most terrifying part is not that such a system once existed. It's that it worked perfectly. No chase. No confrontation. No dramatic arrest. Just a quiet agreement between a man and a machine that decided which version of him would be allowed to continue. So if you believe stories like this matter, if you believe hidden digital decisions shape real lives more than we are ever told, support this channel by liking the video, subscribing, and sharing this story with someone who still thinks disappearing requires crossing borders or burning passports. Because in today's world, you don't have to run. You only have to become unrecognizable to the systems that define you. And somewhere in Ohio, a man is still clocking in. Still working 6 hours. Still officially missing.